You are being gaslit by a global psychological operation that has rebranded the weather as a moral failing of the common man in order to justify the greatest seizure of assets and liberty in human history. The climate crisis, as presented by the architects of the global server, is not a scientific mandate. It is an economic weapon designed to dismantle the middle class and engineer a neo-feudal society where mobility, consumption, and energy independence are privileges reserved for the technocratic elite. You are told that your carbon footprint is the enemy, but in the eyes of the system, you are the carbon they want to reduce. The narrative of sustainability is a linguistic Trojan horse for scarcity. They are selling you a future where you own nothing, eat bugs, and live in a pod to save the planet while they fly private jets to Davos to discuss how to manage your poverty. This is not about the environment, it is about control. Energy is the master resource. It is the fundamental unit of civilization. When they restrict your access to cheap, reliable energy, they are restricting your ability to produce, to move, and to exist. The war on carbon is a war on your biological ambition. Every tax on fuel, every regulation on farming, every ban on combustion engines is a shackle placed on your ankle to keep you from running too fast. The sovereign architect sees through the green veneer and sees the steel cage underneath. They are building a digital panopticon where your access to the global server is conditional on your compliance with their energy rationing. The mechanism of this weapon is the financialization of guilt. The carbon credit is the precursor to the social credit score. They are creating a parallel currency based on compliance rather than value. If you consume too much, if you travel too far, if you eat the wrong meat, your score drops and your access to capital is revoked. This is already happening in the corporate world with ESG, environmental, social, and governance, scores where companies are choked off from banking services if they do not kneel to the dogma. It is coming for you next. The smart meter on your house is not a tool for efficiency, it is a tool for enforcement. It is a kill switch that allows the state to decide if your home is too warm or your shower is too long. They are installing the infrastructure of a prison in your own basement and asking you to pay for the installation. The acoustic rot of the media tells you that this is virtuous. They train you to shame your neighbor for driving a truck. They turn the population into a police force of useful idiots who enforce the restrictions on themselves. The architect refuses this guilt. He understands that human flourishing requires energy. To build, to create, to expand, you must burn energy. The refusal to burn energy is a refusal to live. You do not apologize for your footprint. You maximize your footprint because your footprint is the mark of your impact on reality. The assault on mobility is the most tactical aspect of this war. The push for electric vehicles is not about clean air. It is about controlled movement. An internal combustion engine is a freedom machine. You can put gas in a jerry can and drive anywhere. You can fix it yourself. It is analog. An electric vehicle is a smartphone on wheels. It can be tracked remotely, updated remotely, and disabled remotely. If you do not pay your carbon tax, your car does not start. If you try to drive outside your 15-minute city zone, your car stops. They are tethering you to the grid. They are removing the physical autonomy that the automobile provided to the working man and replacing it with a subscription service for transportation that can be cancelled at any time. The elite do not want a population that can move freely. A mobile population is hard to govern. A stationary population trapped in dense urban centers, dependent on public transit and government energy grids, is easy to manage. The war on cars is a war on your sovereignty. The architect clings to the combustion engine not out of nostalgia, but out of strategic necessity. It is the last bastion of kinetic freedom. The deindustrialization of the West is a calculated demolition. By making energy artificially expensive, they are destroying the small and medium businesses that form the backbone of a free society. The local factory cannot compete with the energy costs imposed by the green mandates. It closes down. The market share is captured by the global monopolies who have the capital to buy carbon indulgences and the political connections to get exemptions. This consolidates wealth into fewer and fewer hands. It wipes out the independent producer and turns him into a dependent consumer. You are seeing the deliberate destruction of the agricultural sector under the guise of nitrogen reduction. They are attacking the food supply. Why? Because a man who cannot feed himself is a slave. If they control the food and they control the energy, they control the man. The logic is simple and brutal. The climate emergency is the permanent state of exception that allows them to bypass democracy and rule by decree. It is the ultimate power grab. We have to take your rights to save you from the apocalypse. It is the oldest trick in the book. The psychological impact of this weapon is the induction of a poverty mindset on a civilizational scale. They are training you to accept less heat, less meat, less travel, less space. They call it degrowth. The architect calls it death. Life is growth. Biology is growth. The universe is expansion. To accept degrowth is to accept a violation of natural law. They want you to feel anxious about your existence. They want you to calculate the carbon cost of having a child. They want you to sterilize your own future out of a misplaced sense of altruism. This is a death cult. They are asking you to commit suicide slowly so that the elite can enjoy the playground of the earth without the nuisance of your presence. The sovereign rejects this scarcity narrative. The earth is abundant. The resources are there. The technology exists to solve pollution without destroying civilization. The problem is not the planet. The problem is the parasites who want to hoard it all for themselves. You must recognize that every time you say, "I shouldn't do this because of the climate," you are tightening the noose around your own neck. You are enforcing their will. The green transition is a wealth transfer operation. They are taking tax dollars from the working class and funneling them into the pockets of the green tech oligarchs who build windmills that don't work and solar farms that destroy ecosystems. It is a subsidy for the rich paid for by the poor. You pay higher electricity bills so BlackRock can hit its ESG targets. You pay higher car prices so Tesla can get regulatory credits. You are the battery being drained to power their virtue signaling. The infrastructure of the Green New World is fragile, expensive, and unreliable. This fragility is a feature, not a bug. A fragile grid keeps you in a state of insecurity. It makes you grateful for the scraps of power they allow you to have. A robust nuclear-powered grid would make energy too cheap to meter and too abundant to ration. That is why they oppose nuclear. They do not want abundance. They want managed scarcity. Abundance liberates. Scarcity enslaves. The architect looks at the climate narrative and sees a battlefield map. They are trying to encircle you. They are cutting off your supply lines, energy. They are restricting your movement, vice. They are poisoning your morale, guilt. You must break the encirclement. You do this by becoming energy resilient. You do this by rejecting the moral framework of the enemy. You do this by understanding that your consumption is the fuel for your production. Do not let them turn you into a monk of the climate religion. Be a warrior of the resource war. Burn the fuel. Build the empire. Ignore the scolds. The weather will change no matter what you do, but your freedom once lost will never return. The storm is not in the sky. The storm is in the legislation. Prepare accordingly. Tactical execution of the counter-climate protocol begins with the immediate establishment of energy sovereignty within your own perimeter. You must decouple your survival from the centralized grid which is being weaponized against you. The sovereign architect views the smart meter as an enemy combatant inside the wire. Your objective is to build a microgrid that operates independently of the state's rationing algorithms. This does not mean you are a hippie hugging trees. It means you are a warlord securing your fuel supply. You invest in solar and batteries not to lower your carbon footprint, but to ensure that when the rolling blackouts hit, and they will hit, your lights stay on and your servers keep running. You are buying redundancy. You are buying the ability to flip the bird to the utility company when they tell you to turn down your thermostat. But you do not rely solely on the green tech because the green tech is intermittent. You back it up with the heavy iron of diesel generators and large propane tanks. You store physical energy on your property. 1,000 gallons of fuel buried in the backyard is a battery that does not degrade and does not need a software update. It is liquid freedom. When the grid goes down, the man with the generator is the king of the neighborhood. He has heat. He has refrigeration. He has power. The rest are freezing in the dark, waiting for the government to save them. The government will not save them. The government turned the lights off. The defense of your mobility requires a strategic regression in technology. You must acquire and maintain analog vehicles that predate the era of constant connectivity. You want a truck that can be fixed with a wrench, not a laptop. You want an engine that runs on combustion, not on a permission slip from the cloud. The pre-2010 diesel truck is the chariot of the resistance. It has no remote kill switch. It has no tracking beacon. It has no carbon credit limiter. It just runs. You treat this vehicle as a strategic asset. You maintain it with religious zeal. You stockpile parts. You learn how to fix it yourself. While the masses are leasing electric cages that can be bricked by an over-the-air update, you are driving a tank that obeys only your foot on the pedal. The war on cars will make these legacy vehicles increasingly rare and valuable. They are the Havana cars of the future. Owning one is a declaration of independence. It signals that you refuse to be tethered to the charging station and the surveillance grid. You can go where you want, when you want, and carry what you want. That capability is the definition of liberty. Food sovereignty is the next front in this war. The elite want you dependent on the ultra-processed sludge delivered by the corporate supply chain, because that supply chain is easily disrupted and easily controlled. They want to tax the meat off your plate and replace it with proprietary protein pastes. The architect bypasses the supermarket. You build direct relationships with local producers who operate outside the industrial complex. You buy the whole cow. You buy the chest freezer. You fill it. You are shorting the grocery store and going long on the farm. This insulates you from the climate inflation that is driving up the cost of calories. When they impose a carbon tax on beef, the price will skyrocket for the consumer. But you have already secured your supply at today's prices. You are also securing your biological integrity. You are eating real food while the rest are eating science experiments. This keeps your testosterone high and your mind clear. The weak man eats the bugs because he is told it is virtuous. The sovereign man eats the steak because he knows it is fuel for conquest. Geographic arbitrage becomes a critical survival skill in the era of climate lockdowns. You must identify the jurisdictions that are true believers in the cult and the jurisdictions that are merely paying lip service. You move your base of operations to the latter. You want to live in a place where the local government values industry over ideology. You want to be far away from the 15-minute cities where your movement is monitored by cameras and your access is gated by QR codes. The rural redoubt is safer than the urban hive. In the city, you are a sitting duck for every new restriction. In the country, you are a hard target. You have space, you have distance, you have well water, you have a septic system. You are decoupled from the municipal umbilical cords. The further you are from the city center, the harder it is for them to enforce their mandates on you. You use the friction of distance as a shield. Let them police the pods. You will be free in the forest. The financial execution involves a ruthless rejection of ESG, environmental social governance, investment vehicles. These funds are designed to starve the real economy of capital and inflate the bubble of the fake economy. You do the opposite. You invest in the sin stocks. You invest in oil. You invest in gas. You invest in defense. You invest in mining. Why? Because the climate cult is making it impossible to bring new supply of these commodities online, which means the existing supply becomes infinitely more valuable. You profit from their stupidity while they are bankrupting themselves chasing green unicorns. You are collecting dividends from the companies that actually keep the world turning. You are betting on physics. Physics always wins. The world needs energy. The world needs steel. The world needs fertilizer. The people who own the production of these essentials will be the new aristocracy. The people who own shares in wind farms that don't blow will be the new peasantry. Position yourself accordingly. Psychological hardening is the final component. You must become immune to the weaponized guilt. When they call you a climate criminal for flying on a plane or driving a truck, you do not apologize. You laugh. You recognize it for what it is, a manipulation tactic used by the weak to control the strong. You reframe the narrative in your own mind. You are not destroying the planet, you are utilizing resources to create value. Human flourishing is the highest good. If the price of human flourishing is a slightly warmer planet, so be it. You refuse to sacrifice your children's future on the altar of a computer model. You teach your family that the crisis is a control grid. You inoculate them against the propaganda they hear in school. You raise them to be unapologetic consumers of energy. You raise them to be builders, not preservers. The preserver tries to keep the world in stasis. The builder accepts that the world must change. Be the agent of change, not the victim of it. The climate weapon is designed to make you small. Tactical execution is about staying big. It is about expanding your footprint when they tell you to shrink it. It is about burning brighter when they tell you to dim your light. Do not go into the dark. Rage against the dying of the light. Build your fire. Stoke it high. Let them try to put it out. They will find that the fire of the sovereign is a flame that cannot be extinguished by their regulations or their shame. You are the heat source. You are the engine. Keep running.